recording. You can only do it in the display or a window. You can't do browser capture. However, they configured their video player, it breaks.
And some will do it so. morning. Good morning, everyone. We'll start the press conference shortly. As usual, we'll have a short statement, and then we'll go on the phone for a question. One question, one follow-up for a reporter, please. Mr. Albas.
Thank you. Bon matin tout le monde. Good morning, everyone. I know that the last month has been extremely difficult for Canadians. Roughly 6 million people have lost their jobs and are now in need of urgent financial help. And while the government has been quick to announce new programs to provide that help, they have struggled to clearly articulate who is eligible and when money will reach Canadians' bank accounts. For a parent struggling to put food on the table, or a young person that can't pay their rent, help cannot come quickly enough. Toute notre équipe conservatrice cherche à aider les Canadiennes et Canadiennes pendant cette crise. Nous proposons des solutions constructives pour aider les Canadiennes et Canadiennes, comme l'augmentation de la subvention salariale à 75%, l'augmentation du crédit d'impôt pour don des bénéfices et des critères plus souples pour avoir droit à la prestation canadienne d'urgence. We have proposed constructive solutions to help Canadians, like increasing the wage subsidy to 75%, increasing the charitable donation tax credit, making it easier for Canadians to qualify for the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, more commonly known as CERB. While I'm pleased that yesterday the government finally took our suggestions and will allow Canadians with limited income to receive the CERB, this entire program underscores the need for continued in-person sittings and regular opportunities to question the Prime Minister and his cabinet in the House of Commons. 3 weeks ago, the House of Commons passed emergency legislation to enact the CERB. At that time, I asked Minister Qualtrough if seasonal workers would qualify. She said that they would. We later learned that that was not the case and that seasonal workers would be ineligible for the support. After weeks of saying no, now the government has changed overnight the eligibility criteria so that seasonal workers, Canadians whose EI has run out, and those with a limited income can apply for the CERB. Imaginez passer 3 semaines à vous demander comment joindre les deux bouts juste parce que le gouvernement n'a pas offert la bonne politique en premier lieu. On aurait pu éviter ça avec un débat et un examen approprié. Imagine going through 3 weeks worrying about how you were going to make ends meet, all because the government failed to get the policy right the first time. This could have been avoided with proper debate and scrutiny. When the House was recalled for the second emergency sitting last Saturday, I asked Minister Qualtrough if future changes to the CERB would require new legislation. And she said, and I quote, "In order to change the criteria to include groups of individuals who are not working but have not stopped working, legislative changes would be required." So, given yesterday's announcement, Parliament will need to meet again for a second time to fix the government's own legislation, a fix that I was asking about as recently as last weekend. Cette habitude d'annoncer des programmes, de faire marche arrière, puis de modifier les critères d'admissibilité créait une confusion chez les Canadiennes et Canadiens qui luttent pendant cette pandémie. Les communications et les directives du gouvernement doivent être claires, cohérentes et transparentes. Ce n'est pas le cas pendant cette crise. Government communications and directions must be clear, consistent, and transparent. This has not been the case during this crisis. The fact that I was able to ask those questions and show this change would be required was because Parliament was in session. Without that opportunity to question the minister, Canadians would have much less information and much less accountability. Ça a démontré pourquoi le Parlement doit continuer à tenir des séances en personne pour que les partis de l'opposition puissent débattre, discuter et améliorer les mesures législatives du gouvernement. Des séances de responsabilisation régulières produisent des meilleurs résultats pour tous les Canadiens. This underscores why Parliament must continue to have in-person sittings so that the opposition parties can debate, discuss, and ultimately improve government legislation. Regular accountability sessions leads to better results for all Canadians. The 2-hour accountability sessions we've had so far with the Prime Minister and ministers on matters related to COVID-19 were extremely productive and helpful to Canadians. Now, we must ensure that there continues to be regular in-person meetings so accountability and debate can continue. Nos institutions démocratiques sont essentielles, maintenant plus que jamais. Let's get to work to help Canadians through this crisis. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Happy to take questions.
We will now take questions on the phone. Please, one question, one follow-up per reporter. Operator, can you patch the first question through, please?
Certainly, thank you. Please press star 1 at this time if you have a question. Veuillez s'il vous plaît appuyer sur étoile maintenant si vous avez une question. Our first question is from Tom Korski, Blacklock's reporter. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Albas, can I ask you on Bill C-13 that enacted the Canada Emergency Response Benefit? That's Part 2 of the bill, Clause 6, is quite plain. It says you must have no income, no employment or self-employment income. Is it your understanding, I asked because we couldn't get an answer from any federal department or agency yesterday, is it your understanding that in compliance with the revised program unveiled yesterday, that bill must now be amended?
Yes. Well, thank you, Tom, for asking the question. In fact, again, the full quote from the minister in last Saturday when I asked on this measure, she said specifically to the eligibility criteria, and I quote, "The eligibility criteria for the CERB are in fact legislated. You have to have earned more than $5,000 in income. You have to be a resident in Canada, and you have to have stopped working for COVID reasons," end quote. So this clearly shows that Parliament, has given its consent to make this into a law that specifically rules that as part of the eligibility. So if the minister is in fact able to offer this benefit through some means, maybe perhaps they're going to be offering support to people coming off of EI, seasonal workers, by utilizing an interim order under employment insurance, that's fine. Conservatives want to see good support happening for Canadians in a timely way. But to say that they're eligible for the CERB when Parliament has passed a law that says that the eligibility must include having stopped working for COVID-19 reasons, that's the question we have for the government. Was the minister correct with what she said in the House last Saturday? Or are they incorrect now, where they are using some other means to bypass, a loophole perhaps, to bypass what Parliament has enacted?
My second question, aside from Parliament getting back to business, we hear expressions of frustration from small business legislators, trade associations, tax attorneys. We're saying you have a COVID committee of cabinet acting now as directors of the national economy. They're emerging from secret meetings with these very far-reaching edicts that have been proven from time to time to be simply incorrect, resulting in desperation, anger, and confusion, a lot of calls to MPs' constituency offices. Should those meetings just be public? Aside from public sessions of Parliament, should the COVID Committee of Cabinet just meet in public so they can get it right the first time and people can see, often people who have knowledge or expertise can point out immediate problems instead of doing makeups 3, 4, 5 weeks later?
Yes, thanks for the question. In regards to cabinet confidentiality, that is part of our system, well entrenched, and it's there. But what is also entrenched in our system is to have regular accountability by Parliament. In fact, it's in our Constitution that Parliament must meet. And so during this time where we see that we are able to follow the regulations or the directives laid out by public health officers, to be able to meet in a small skeleton crew, to be able to offer Canadians both the scrutiny and to be able to raise concerns directly with ministers and to have them respond to that. Again, that's why we believe as conservatives, we need to have more opportunities for debate, for scrutiny, because that gets the best results for Canadians. We want to make sure that Canadians are supported in this time.
Operator, can we have the next question? Prochaine question.
Our next question is from Stephanie Levitz from the Canadian Press. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for taking our questions. I guess further to this issue of Parliament resuming, can you provide an update on the status of negotiations to that effect? And is your party prepared to, for lack of a better term right now, hold it hostage and force the return of Parliament full scale if your conditions are not met?
So first of all, thank you, Stephanie, for the question. What I would simply start by saying is I asked the question today, and from my understanding, negotiations are ongoing. And that means to me that, parties are trying to get the very best result for Canadians. I think that if people looked back at the last two emergency sessions that involved quite a bit of negotiations, we always ended up with a better result when Parliament is meeting and parties in a minority are working to get the best results that they can. I don't believe anyone wants to hold hostage anything. I think what conservatives have been saying is that we can get better results by coming together, following the directives of public health officers, at the same time ensuring that Canadians get the support that they need in this time of crisis.
And just picking up on a theme that Tom raised about frustration, it does seem like the Canadian public is getting increasingly frustrated by the status of things, whether it's sort of the inequitable application of social distancing measures across the country, the frustration over applying with benefits. And I wonder, if you could reflect on that from a political point of view. You guys went into this crisis saying you were going to be not, maybe nicer might not be the right word, but it wasn't going to be partisan. And it feels the last few days that have taken a bit more of a partisan tone. And I wonder if you could speak to that.
Well, I can absolutely speak to the frustration of many Canadians, and it has changed over the past week and a half because many people are struggling to get information on whether or not they are eligible for certain benefits or for certain programs. I know I've spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs who have said that the Canadian Emergency Bank account and the way that it's set up causes them frustration. Everything from as simple as one sole proprietor has always run his business for 24 years with a personal checking account. And he's told that because he doesn't have a business account, he does not qualify. People that, who run, small mom and pop, but find out that because mom and pop stores find out that their credit union isn't included on the list. And so when you see certain businesses getting the advantage of those CEBA loans and other ones are discounted for very frivolous reasons because they don't bank with the right bank or financial institution, or they don't qualify because they've used the wrong account, that gets people very frustrated. And so one of the things that the reason why I'm here today, Stephanie, is to remind the government that this is a minority government, that it needs to work with other parties, and that we as conservatives want to continue to get the best results. And part of that is having regular meetings in person, and then to be giving accountability to the Canadian people, and to see those policies the government puts forward scrutinized properly to get the best result for Canadians. And my heart goes to those particularly that are seeing what they've worked for over their lifetime, where they're struggling right now to pay those bills.
Operator, can we have the next question? Prochaine question, s'il vous plaît.
We have no further questions registered at this time. Back to you.
Thank you.
This concludes our press conference. Thank you very much.
And thank you for your help. Je vous remercie pour votre aide.
Thank you.
Hello again.